Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name's Sam and a very warm welcome to day 14 in my Somali diary. My Somali diary is just a little series that I do all week from Monday to Friday as I kind of bring you on the journey with me learning the Somali language. So I share with you what resources I'm using, I try to update you on my level of the Somali language as well as deliver lessons that I've learnt myself. Sometimes I even deliver lessons to kind of consolidate that knowledge in my own head, like I might start the video not really too sure about the concept myself, but by the end of it, I really get it, right? Because I've delivered the information to you. So, in this episode, all I want to do is just talk to you about another little resource that I found on Amazon. The reason why I wanted to buy it is because it was like £2.20 or something crazy. And I've actually seen this as a PDF online, but I don't think it's available for free anymore. So it's one of these kind of classics that's been reprinted. And what I found so fascinating about it is that this was written 115 years ago, right? Like this little book on notes on the Somali language was written over 100 years ago. And, it was written in 1903. I wasn't born in 1903. I was born in 1993, right? So it was 90 years before I was born. So what is it called, okay? Just so that you guys can make sure you get hold of it if you want to get hold of it. So it's called Notes on the Somali Language with examples of phrases and conversational sentences. And it's written by a gentleman called John William Carnegie, or Carnegie, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, Kirk. And he's actually an individual who was in Somaliland, obviously, as I say, like over 100 years ago, and he was out there with the military. And when he was doing interviews with the locals, he wrote this book, and it's just fascinating. Like, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's the best actual textbook for learning the Somali language. I wouldn't say it's the best resource for that, because firstly, it's just not very big, it doesn't have exercises in it. It's not like it's not a linear accumulation of different topics that are conducive to becoming fluent in the Somali language. And it doesn't claim to be, like he says very clearly in the beginning, this work does not profess to be anything more learned than its title implies. It is just notes, it's his notes. But it is really fascinating for a number of reasons, so I just kind of wanted to sit with you and just talk to you about it a little bit, and we could just have a conversation about it, about why it's quite cool. So, yeah, the print, as I say, like here it says notes on the Omali language. Do you know Omali? But we know it's the Somali language, of course. So, number one, okay, you can tell that something's old and it's written in Old Somali when you see a CH, right? When you see a ch sound in there. Because Somali doesn't have a ch sound, but in here there's loads of ch sounds. And it sounds to me that it's really just supposed to be a ch, right? That's a ch, as well as the kh being a ch. I'm not quite sure what the distinction is between those two. It also has a G and a GH, actually, I think, which is supposed to be like the Arabic ghain in there as well, but it's really funky. But the reason why that's so interesting is because this was written before the Somali language really fully adopted the Latin script, right? That happened, like 79, 71 or something like that. Or earlier than that, maybe. I don't have the dates on top of my head, but definitely not as early as this, right? Definitely not as early as the beginning of the 20th century. So that's really interesting to see someone, a British person, go to Somaliland and write a book on the Somali language before the Somali language itself has really fully adopted the Latin script, but he's using the Latin script. So that's really fascinating. But I wanted to give you kind of some examples of things that he uses in here, because yes, it is just fascinating to think about how a European ear, or particularly an English ear, hears the Somali sounds and then kind of creates them himself. So an example that I gave in a previous video this week was about the word wanaksan. The g, it's supposed to be wanag-san, right? Or when I say it's supposed to be, that's how it's written now in kind of standard Somali. But he writes it in here as wanak-san, and so that's just really fascinating. Let's see if we can try to find something that's it's written even in such old English. Like, it doesn't even have I, you, he, she. It has I, thou, he, she. Right? It's even written in kind of old English. But more than anything, it's just a really fascinating kind of historical document of the learning of the Somali language by English people. Here's another one. Okay, so. So we have like Mahad written with just an H, right? Like the Somali language has adopted an X for the ha sound. But here, obviously, he didn't know that, right? Obviously, our friend John William Carnegie Kirk didn't know that. So he's written Mahad igu shegisa, shegisa. Whereas now we'd say Mahad igu shegisa, or something like that. Like, why do you tell me? I mean, that's more like what. What do you tell me? Really? I mean, mahad. There's no y in there really, but anyway, the man doesn't claim to be a scholar of the Somali language. He just claims to be a person who was with the military in Somalia in the early 20th century and wrote this book. Before we kind of conclude this video, what I'd like to do for you guys is I want to let you know that you can get hold of this on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. But also, I'm going to buy 5 copies of it, and I'm going to give them out at the end of December to just random patrons, people who are patrons of the SamOfSomalia channel. I know I've been at the end of all these videos this whole week. I've been telling you about the Patreon page, but it's something that really means a lot to me, and I'd love for you guys to contribute to the channel. So what we're going to do is, if by the end of this year, by the end of 2019, end of this month, if we have maybe $100 a month worth in contributions from people, so it might be 100 of you who contribute $1, it might be it might be 20 of you who contribute $5, it might just be 1 of you who contributes $100 a month, right? If we can reach that, I'm going to buy 5 copies of these, and I'm just going to give them for free out to any of the members, inshallah. And we'll do that regularly, I think. I'd really like to support Somali language teachers and support Somali resources every month, and I'll just buy a few copies of any resources or courses or books or whatever, or even I might even buy time of lessons with different Somali teachers that are online, and I'll just give them out to the patrons as well every month, just as a thank you to you guys and a little bit more incentive for you guys to give to the project. So that's everything. That's everything for this video. Really, really brief, just little introduction to this resource that I've started looking at in my Somali language studies. So maybe you guys would incorporate it into your studies as well. That's everything for day 14 in my Somali diary. Hopefully you join me tomorrow for day 15, and I'll see you guys then. Assalamu alaikum. Aad baad ugu mahadsantihiin daawashadiina, fadlan like, share iyo subscribe dhaha. Assalamu alaikum iyo nabad geliyo.